Hey everyone, it's Matt aka Tech Ranger, and today we'll be taking a look at lighting mods for Starfield on the Xbox. I usually use the color filter removal because it brings out a lot of the colors in the game, removes that kind of nasty looking filter when you're in things like caves you can actually see. However, it does take a little bit of the flavor of the game away when you're in different areas like on planets. It looks a little barren. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at ways to actually improve the lighting in the cities, look at a mod that actually adjusts some of the lighting in the interiors in the game. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below and comment down below what kind of lighting mods you're using currently in Starfield. With that out of the way, let's take a look at these mods and see if they're worth checking out for your game. So the vanilla lighting in Starfield may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it does bring a certain flair to the game. And that's where Starluminous comes in. The aim of this mod isn't to change the overall LUT of the game, the look of the game, but to actually change the interior lighting as far as taking lights away, turning lights on that maybe weren't working, or just changing the direct and indirect lighting. And then this is done across a ton of locations in the game. Not every single one. There's not a ton of major differences in all locations, but some are pretty noticeable. If you're unsure where to look, all these changes are listed in the mod description, so if you're not really sure which locations have different lighting, you can take a look there if you're not sure, and then that will get updated every time the mod gets updated. I went to these different locations and recorded some footage and tried to pick out the best ones to me. The basic gist of everything is to bring the lighting down so it's not as harsh indoor, bring out some of that fog that may be in some of the interiors, and then remove some light sources that maybe shouldn't be there, or add some if there isn't some needed. Every major patch to the game has actually included some form of lighting changes, so it has improved since launch. If some of the areas in the game, specifically some of these interiors mentioned in the description of the mod, are coming up short for you, hopefully this section with these side-by-side comparisons will actually help you out, and then seeing if it's really worth downloading a mod for. I think it is, but visuals are subjective. It's not terribly big in size either, so it's a pretty easy sell. It's not a paid mod, by the way, it's free. But that is Starluminous in a nutshell. So for example, here in New Homestead, as we get into the actual settlement itself, you can see the global illumination of the game. It's a little bright, similar in some ways to how the lighting worked in Fallout 4. In the lodge, there's less indirect lighting, as in things just shining somewhere rather than actually onto something. And with the day and night cycle in the game, you'll actually be able to tell if it's day or night while you're in the lodge. Another example of some small tweaks that done by hand actually make a pretty big difference. And before we jump off of Starluminous, there is an additional mod that you can download that actually changes the lighting in Neon. And this is a pretty big change, so it was pushed as a standalone mod, and it takes away that brownish look in the Neon core section, as well as change the lighting a little bit in the Astral Lounge. Depending on what you're playing on, this can look like a blue mess, so it's changed a little bit, more refined, and looks a lot cleaner. If you're not a fan of these changes, this is a separate mod, so Starluminous still works as it does. You just don't have to download this extra one if you don't want. For me, this actually solves the problem with Neon Core, which was that kind of brown and super foggy look. So I would recommend it if you're kind of going for that more cyberpunk look. So that is Starluminous. Let me know in the comments if you guys have tried this one out yet. Curious to know your thoughts. I actually had this in my original Lord Order video for the game, but with the color filter removal, I feel like I didn't really notice a lot of the changes. Next up, we have Rabbit's Real Lights, and there's like 9 of these for all the different cities and settlements in the game. The aim here is similar to Starluminous, but then on a city or settlement basis. So a lot of these areas like Sidonia, for example, make it a lot more brighter, turn lights on that were off, make it a lot more inviting and more full of life than it normally would look if you just landed here. And you're wondering why most of the lights are off. Same thing in Neon. The lights on the landing pad are on. It's very bright when you land, and then when you kind of make your way into Neon itself, you get some of that lighting throughout because Neon is in the middle of the water. A lot of it is open. For the series of mods and in Neon itself, there are hundreds of newly placed lights, and then fake lighting is removed. If you end up using Starluminous Neon along with this, changes to outside may not be super apparent. Gagarin was another one of those places that had like a little too much light. So in some cases there was just too much going on, so that fog popped up again. So this version of Rabbit's Real Lights adds over 200 hand-placed lights to Gagarin Landing, makes the visibility here a lot better than it was when the game launched. There's some excellent changes here if you're downloading a bunch of Rabbids mods. This is definitely one that you should look at. With these mods that add a ton of lighting to the game, especially if there's like new lighting added, there can be some performance hits. I didn't notice anything too out of the ordinary, since when you target 60 FPS, especially if you have the visuals option on the Xbox Series X, you're still gonna notice some dips here and there. So I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, but if you do, you can reach out to the mod author, let them know. In general, performance is always better with variable refresh rate if you have that option. While I do have that option on this monitor, I can't record with it on. So I'll always target 60 with the visuals mode on when I record in Starfield. That way you might see some dips, but at least it will look the best. When I play normally, I generally target 60 Hz, but then also have the visuals mode on. Variable refresh rate can smooth out some of the rough edges along with that. However, if it gets too bad in certain spots, I'll just switch to performance mode. But those are things to keep in mind if you end up downloading some of these mods, although I would take the performance hit if there was one with these mods because they're just that good. Hopetown is another one of those that stand out as a favorite for me. But with all of those shown off, let's take a look at one last one, and that is New Atlantis, which I think boasts some of the biggest changes. As you might expect, this is one of the bigger mods in Rabbids' line of mods, and this is because there's a ton of new lighting in New Atlantis. There's over 700 lights that are placed in New Atlantis, increasing the visibility in a lot of the areas, as well as adding lights to landing pads. In the areas around the city, it's kind of what you've come to expect from the other mods that we've already taken a look at. It's just more of a refinement of what is there, but then also adding lights where there can be lights, taking them away, improving the lighting in general so it's not as in your face. For example, in this last section here in the Mass District, you'll see the fog on the lights in the vanilla version of the game, but not so much with Rabbids real lights. And it's pretty apparent how big of a difference that makes when we go down the stairs here. So that, I think, is a pretty good look at Rabbids real lights. There's a few other mods that cover some different cities, but I think you get the general idea of what these mods are trying to accomplish. But let me know in the comments down below if you guys have tried any of these or are using all. That is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, especially if you're struggling to make some of these cities actually look like cities at night, or improving some of the lighting in certain areas. I think the overall look of the game has improved since it came out, but there's always something more to tweak with a mod. Thanks again for watching, and happy modding.